We have a general idea of what we want our website to look like. So this is going to be what we want it to look like as a desktop version or on larger screens. Because this is a mobile website, we want to move some things around when the screen size changes. So when it shrinks down, then we want all of these to take up full blocks that are available and stack in this type of an order. So we have the header, the nav, the content, and the footer. So basically there's some shifting around, so the navigation would move onto there, the content would move under the navigation, and then we'd have the footer and the content. So generally this would be the same order, but then the content would also be taking up 100%. So let's start building out our HTML. And what I like to do is I like to start with a wrapper, and this is a wrapper that would contain all of the core HTML. So this would be on the outside and nest the core content within it. And this is where I like to use divs. So you can use different elements as well, but divs are usually fairly standard to use as a container. And I'm just going to give this a class of wrapper. And this is going to wrap around my entire content because I do want to have it as a fixed width. So when it gets really big on a larger screen, I want it to take up only up to a certain maximum pixel width. So this is where the wrapper is going to come into play. So next, what I want to do is maybe set up a header, and I'm going to use the header element. So open and close. So header information can go here. We might also want some H1 or H2 tags here that contain information about the website, so company website. And we also might want to use an H1, so all depending. So we also can use spans as well to style this out. Next, after the header, so looking at our design, we made a nav, so I'm going to create a nav element here. And the way that I usually do navs is I do unordered lists, and we apply styling with the CSS. So we make all that magic happen with the CSS. So I'm just adding in a hyperlink here. So this is going to link over to the main page. So first item in our navigation would be something like home, and then each item here that we're going to use is going to be a list item. And that was just brackets beautifying my code. So that's one of the features of brackets where you can beautify the code. So next we've got home, we've got about, and then lastly, every website should have a way to get a hold of you, so contact. So that's where we're going to create that contact page. And then right now these are list items. So I'm going to open up that preview here. So you can see the way that it's going to look like right now. So when I refresh it, so we see that we've got just some really basic HTML that's being designed here. And next, let's create a main content area. So this I'm going to use as a div, and sometimes you can use section as well, but I'm going to be using sections within this div. So I'm going to be calling it a div, but of course you can call it section, you can call it article. So this is all for HTML5. So any one of those elements is acceptable. So I'm going to give it an ID, and I'm just going to call it main. And then within here, let's add in some sections. So we would have a primary section, or we'd have a secondary section. So we'd have two different sections in here, and I'm going to identify those as well. So maybe we can call it first and second, just to be really simple with this, because this is just for design purposes. But of course, if you were actually building out a website, you might want to have a different naming convention here. So this is our main content area. And then lastly, what I wanted to include is, of course, a footer. So going back to our design, we see that we've got the header, we've got the nav, we've got our main content div, and the footer. So essentially the four different sections that we're going to be utilizing within the website. And when we go back to our design, so we've got the header area here, the nav, the main content, the footer, and we have the same thing here in mobile. So everything matches up. So we've got 4 main sections, 4 main container areas of our website, and then we're going to be moving these around as needed. And we see that everything is contained within that wrapper container. So everything from the header to the nav to the content to the footer is contained within there. So the next lesson, we're going to start building, we're going to add in some dummy content, and then we're going to start with styling, and that's what's going to make things really interesting when we start styling out our website, because we're going to really bring it to life then. So that's all coming up in the next set of lessons.